Forbes, we come to you, our wonderful esteemed guest for the hour. I guess, frankly, I'm in favor of auditing the auditors, but curious what you think.
Oh, yes, and that's just the beginning. The ultimate goal is to send them to the junk pile of history by putting in something simple like a flat tax.
Interesting.
Remember, the federal income tax code, all the attendant rules and regulations, is well over 10 million. Probably more like 20 or 30 million words. Nobody knows what's in it. The IRS doesn't know what's in it. You call their hotline if they deign to answer it. For the third of the time, they give you the wrong answer, but hold you responsible for it. You know, several years ago, a magazine did a survey. They gave a typical hypothetical family's finances to 46 different tax preparers, experts in the field. And you know what they came back with? 40 different estimates of what the family owed. Thousands of dollars of difference.
Wow.
So that's the code we have today. It's fundamentally corrupt, full of corruption in Washington. Half the lobbying revolves around the tax code. So I hope this is just the beginning volley of just getting rid of this thing and just having a simple agency to collect the money on your postcard.
Steve, I love everything that DOGE is doing. But to quote Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, in his interview with Larry Kudlow, we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem.
Right.
And so why not focus on basically just cutting off all of the excess spending, cutting off the fraud, rather than going after the revenue collector? Because listening to these Democrats, and I listened to them in that DOGE subcommittee, they pay very close attention to what they're up to, because they talk about wanting to upgrade technology. Oh, we're on board with, you know, a right-sizing government, but they will talk about spending money through technology upgrades, and that's where they will focus with the IRS. So why not focus on everything else first before you focus on the revenue collector?
I think with Elon Musk and his team and the others on that team, you can do both, walk and chew gum at the same time. And in terms of the IRS, it's the agency most feared in the federal government. You get a notice from the IRS, even on Valentine's Day, and you know this is bad news. And if it's not bad news, you heave a sigh of relief and hope you haven't had a heart attack in the meantime. So let's get rid of this thing, cut it down to size. Other countries have done it. So that way, they just collect the money. You can do it at a few keystrokes on your computer and be done with it.
Yeah.
And that way, we are free again. Just remember, the IRS says we spend over 6.5 billion hours a year filling out tax forms. We spend between 200 to 400 billion dollars a year complying with this corrupt thing. Imagine over 10 years, billions of trillions of dollars that could have gone for new services, new products, new medical devices and drugs and the like. Huge opportunity wasted. Let's have the resources go for something that helps the American people rather than frightens the American people.
IRS should be one of the easiest ones to go after in terms of staffing, though, because over the last 2 years, their staffing went up by 33% in 2 years, okay? Now, has your IRS encounters, your interactions with them improved by 33%? Have you noticed anything that would justify that? So to me, because of the Biden administration, IRS is bloated. They wanted to get bloated so they could audit our taxes more often, more regularly, with greater granularity. Cut that staff. 33% is egregious for any bureaucratic.
And it's going after the middle class, because they know people in the middle class don't have the resources to fight back like the rich do and the big companies do.
Jackie, I'm one of them. I got an audit from 2021 last month. I'm like, okay. And they know that I'm like, I'll pay it, because like you said, I'm just scared that they're coming after me.
Those people were hired, and the IRS was expanded to go out and harass people, like you said, the middle class, the small business owners, people who are using TurboTax or H&R Block to do their tax return, and they've made a simple mistake. I've talked to dozens of people that's happened to, and not only obviously do they want the money for the mistake, but then they charge them fines and penalties, and they've had to go to an expert to help them fix it. And so there's an opportunity there, and the interest. And at the end of the day, you've got Democrats sitting back and saying the rich in this country are not paying their fair share, yet they're attacking a small business owner over a mistake that probably was not intentional, and that's how they're collecting the money. So basically, over the course of the last few years, Under Biden, they've harassed people. I am all for this. Go see what kind of fraud, waste, and miscellaneous is at the IRS. Pare it down, make it more efficient. And I'm for it at the Defense Department, too. Defense is important for this country, but I'm sure the way every other department has a bloated bureaucracy within it, they do as well. Let's clean house.
How do you feel, though, about, so now we're not going to just have the Internal Revenue Service, we're going to have an external revenue service that is opened up. Again, this is more government to collect tariffs, Steve. And I meant to bring this up yesterday, but right now, Customs and Border Protection at the Department of Homeland Security collects tariffs, and the U.S. Court of International Trade is where foreign and domestic companies go to make these appeals. To form an external revenue service, you're going to need a statutory fix that either takes power away from Customs or subdivides Customs into two entities. So this is more government, not less.
Well, I hope when Musk gets in charge of that, they'll just label things differently. So something that comes in, you say, oh, it's income, outgo, whatever, should be a labeling exercise, not a bureaucracy exercise. As to Jackie's point on the DOD, Department of Defense, the whole procurement system is a disaster. It's called Eroom's Law, Moore's Law spelled backwards, because why does it take 10 or 20 or 30 years to develop a weapons system? Hundreds of thousands of bureaucrats are involved in that, and so we could get a lot more for our dollars, get weapons systems in a timely manner, new weapons systems more quickly, and that's the way to go. That's the literally hundreds of billions of dollars wasted over the year in this massive bureaucracy that no defense secretary has ever been able to get his arms around.
Hey, Pete Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth said, come on in, DOGE. Come on in and help me out. You know why? Because he wants to pass an audit this year. The Department of Defense never passes an audit. I think he knows he's on notice to do that, and he wants help.
Any consequence if you don't pass your audit? Has there ever been any consequence for it?
Well, we've only been auditing it for like 7 years.
Okay, we'll talk to you again next year.
Actually, you know what the consequence is Americans are like, would you please pass an audit?
Yeah.
Like, we all get audited.
Yeah.
You pass an audit as well. But he's inviting them in. To me, that's the winning strategy. Fighting DOGE, you're going to lose against Elon Musk. Partnering with him, he's going to help you do things like pass audits and gain credibility.
I'll just say, to wrap it up, my favorite meme floating around on Instagram is when they say the IRS tells you they know what you owe, but I have to guess every April. And then when I get it wrong, they know, but they won't tell me what I got wrong. I have to guess again and pay more accountants.
It's
So
like one of your
very
mock quizzes.
exciting.